Hello, welcome to Technically Analytics. In this video, we're going to be going over the offseason profiles of each team in the NL West. I'll be doing all 30 teams via each division, starting with the West in each conference. So starting with the NL West, we're going to go over the Rockies, who went 59 and 103, a mere 41 games behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. So let's get into it. We at the top of the lineup, we have Charlie Blackmon, Ezequiel Tovar, Nolan Jones, Kris Bryant, Ryan McMahon, Brendan Rodgers, Hunter Goodman, Elias Diaz, and Brenton Doyle. So this lineup, I like some of the guys in the lineup. I like McMahon, I like Bryant, I like Rodgers, and I like Blackmon, and I like Nolan Jones. But like, we just need to see this team put it all together finally, because we haven't seen it. And with the Rockies, they have really great attendance, but they're really a shitty team, and it's always mystifying to me why they don't find like ground ball pitchers that only throw to contact on the ground, and they get really good defensive guys and a few guys that can hit homers, and that's all they need to win. And they, for some reason, they don't do it. So these are the projections for 2024, their stats here, and we need these guys to have great seasons in order for this team to be like good. And they're in a tough division as well. So one of the guys I want to talk about in the lineup is Kris Bryant, and Kris Bryant he's been there for a couple years now, approximately 3 years, and he's been hurt a lot of the time. Like, his games only have added up to barely a full season, only 122 games over 2 seasons, maybe a little more depending on how much he played in 2021. But we need him to be like Chicago Cub Kris Bryant kind of guy. We can't have him being like, I don't know, like Colorado Rocky Bryant. We need him to be like, 2021 Kris Bryant, because that's the guy that really made all the money in Chicago. So moving on to their bench, nothing that special. It's, they have Jacob Stallings, who's a good catcher. I mean, he's going to give you a few hits here and there, but from Miami, they have this Montero guy, they have Alan Trejo, and they have Bradley Zimmer. And these are non-roster invitees. So these guys are trying to make the roster in spring training, see what happens. Their bench is okay. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And then moving on to their pitching, we have their starting pitching rotation, which is Kyle Freeland, Cal Quantrill, Alston Gomber, Ryan Feltner, and Dakota Hudson. Now, I do like some of these guys. I like Freeland. He's been consistently good over the past couple years. Ignore the ERAs because they're in Colorado, so that the low gravity kind of kills their ERAs because they give a lot of home runs because the fly balls tend to just fly out of the park. But I like Freeland. I like Quantrill. He was good with the Guardians. Gomber, he's always been okay. Like, again, playing in Colorado doesn't help you as a pitcher unless you're a ground ball pitcher, and then you're pretty decently good. But in their bullpen, they have Justin Lawrence, Tyler Kinley, Jake Bird, Nick Mears, Jalen Beeks, Gavin Howell, Ty Block, and Anthony Molina. Now, I don't love their bullpen. I mean, some of these guys might have a good season. It's actually on their injured. When you go to their injured, that's one of the guys that I actually want to talk about is Daniel Bard. Now, you can see they're injured. They have some significant starting pitching on the IR as well. I don't know who this reliever is. I think looks like he's just a draft pick, but yeah, they have Herman Marquez and Antonio Sanzanella on the IR, which is on the injured list, and they have Tommy John, so they might not be back till mid-season or late season, which kind of sucks because these are actually good and they do actually pitch well in Chicago. But Daniel Bard, on the other hand, this is a guy that has been in Colorado for a while, quite a while, 2 years, 4 or 5 years. And when he's on his game, he's one of the best closers in the game. I mean, you can see over the past couple of years, he's had, significant innings, and he's been pretty decent. 10 Ks per 9. He had a little bit of a down season, but I think he was hurt. He obviously got hurt towards the end of the season, so I think that kind of hurt his thing. But I mean, in 2022, he was lights out. He had a 1.79 ERA, 2.86 FIP, which is amazing for Colorado, and I mean, his home runs per nine were less than half of a home run per nine, which is basically like less than a home run a game, even every 2 games, maybe even. So I really think if Barr can have a great season, that's going to help the Rockies out a lot. And it's we'll see, we'll see. And then their organizational details. This is just a little bit of their top prospects. Nothing too crazy. They have some overall ranks. They have a guy in Double A that's ranked 8th. They have Dylan George ranked second in their organization, 67th overall. These guys aren't ready till 2025, 2026. No one really that close. They have Hunter Goodman. He's one of their top prospects. He was in their lineup. They lost a few good free agents. Chris Flexen, and they re-signed Block, they re-signed Blackman, obviously. Chase Anderson, I don't know if they're gonna miss him. They lost Brett Sauter, I don't know if they're gonna miss him. And you can see their rankings in 2023. They weren't very good anywhere really. Their pitching was kind of bad, and their hitting was kind of bad too. So they really needed to step it up, like big time. So we'll see what the Rockies do. I don't think they're going to make any more moves, but we'll see. Now, as for my prediction, we're going to go with last place, and we're going to go with 60 and 102. So we'll see where they land. I don't think they're going to win more games than they did last year, but maybe one more game, maybe a couple more games if they're lucky. If everyone has a great season, I could see them being like 70 maybe, or 75 wins, but I have to go with 60. So that's the Rockies. On to the next team. The next team we're going to talk about is the San Diego Padres, who went 82 and 80, 18 games behind the Dodgers. They had a lot of good players at the beginning of the season, and it just didn't work out for them. So we're going to take a look at their lineup. Ha-Seong Kim, Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Jake Cronenworth, Luis Campusano, Jackson Profar, who they just signed, Matthew Batten, and Jose Azar. Of course, you have to like the top of this lineup with Kim, Bogaerts, Tatis, Machado, Cronenworth. The top 5 is amazing. I mean, you kill for that lineup, and if these guys can produce, then it goes without saying they could win a lot of games. But they had Juan Soto, they lost him to the Yankees, 10-year deal. And that kind of, or not 10-year deal, sorry. They lost him to the Yankees and the Yankees, he signed with the Yankees in free agency. So, they traded all that pitching the Yankees traded all the pitching for Juan Soto. They didn't sign him free agency. He's a free agent after this year. But that's really a big loss for them in the offensive production department. So, I'm really looking for Bogaerts, Tatis, Machado, and Cronenworth to really step up their game and do more. And I mean, these projections are pretty generous, I think. I don't think they did that well last year. But anyway, who we're going to look at in the lineup is Matthew Batten. He's kind of a newer face in the lineup. He's going to be playing third. They got Machado at DH, which is interesting. But Matthew Batten, he's a player. He's from their system. He's had some time in the major leagues, about 15 games, and then he had 43 games last year. So he has maybe about 60 games in the MLB. And if this guy can work out to be anything like his Steamer projections or maybe a little bit better, this guy could be the difference maker, because they already have a great top of the lineup. They just need more. They need someone at the bottom to perform well too, instead of just the top, because that's not gonna be good for them if they don't have any bottom production. So they're gonna really want Batten to step up, or one of the guys at the bottom to step up. Otherwise, it's gonna be a long season for them. And I wouldn't want them to have a long. You don't want to see that. So, and then on their bench they got Kyle Hashimoto, who is a catcher, and sorry for the pronunciation. They have Rosario, Mercado, and Mitchell. I mean, I like their bench. Higosha is actually a great catcher. He's from the New York trade. I like him as a backup. And then the other guys, they're all right. They're just, free agents, and most of them are free agents, and they'll probably do okay. I mean, they'll be in there sometimes, and it's fine. All right, and on to their pitching rotation. They have Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Michael King, Pedro Avila, Randy Vasquez. Now, I like their pitching lineup. I don't know about Vasquez or Avila. I'm guessing they'll be fine because these guys are, well, Vasquez is from New York, so we'll see what he does. Avila is from, I think he pitched last year. But the one I really want to talk about here is Michael King, and I'll get to him in a second. See the bullpen. We have Robert Suarez, Yuki Matsui, Angel De Los Santos, Wendy Peralta, who was a pretty good signing for them. I think he's going to be one of their best bullpen pieces in terms of like pitching wise. Suarez was good last year too, but I expect Matsui to probably take over the closing role eventually, possibly because he's pretty good he's from the Nippon League in Japan. And then you have Steven Wilson, Tom Cosgrove, Woo Suk Go, and Louis Pacino, or whatever his name is. Yeah, sorry for the pronunciation again. But I want to talk about Michael King because Michael King, he came over from the Yanks. He was in the bullpen a lot, I believe. I don't know that he started a lot of games. Oh, he did. He started 9 games, so I guess he has a few starting under his belt. He did pretty well. I mean, 2.75 ERA, 3.13 FIP, 2.2 WAR. He had 10 strikeouts per 9. I mean, he's been lights out for the past couple of years. 11 strikeouts per 9 last year. I believe that was mostly in the bullpen. No game started, so he doesn't give up home runs. He doesn't give up a lot of hits. So this guy's gonna be one of their game changers. Like if he can perform as well as Musgrove, Darvish, and with Musgrove and Darvish kind of replacing Blake Snell, who they haven't re-signed and isn't signed to anybody yet. If they can get some production out of him similar to Snell, maybe that's their saving grace for the season. And obviously Wendy Peralta and the new additions in the bullpen need to really step up and perform because they have 5 new additions. So yeah, we're gonna see how that works out for them. And on their injured list, they have one utility guy. Looks like he's probably gonna come back mid-season. Not a big deal. And then as their organizational details go, you can see they lost a lot of players. I mean, just Austin Nola, Jose Iglesias, Garrett Cooper. I'm surprised he's not re-signed. Josh Hader to the Astros. I mean, Seth Lugo to Kansas City, Michael Wacha, Kansas City, Gary Sanchez, Milwaukee. They haven't re-signed Blake Snell, so Rich Hill. I mean, these guys are all still available too. Matt Carpenter, G-Man Choi. I mean, and then you can see their prospects, which, you know, they have a few good prospects. They're not coming up this year, but they have them. They're there. I mean, and they also traded for some with the Yankees, and some are like Vasquez and King. But you can see last year they were really good at starting pitcher. Blake Snell won the Cy Young, so that really helps them out a lot. And as for relief pitching, their bullpen was okay. Like, it wasn't the best. They struggled with walks, but I think that's mostly due to Snell because he did struggle with walks a little bit last year. And their offense just needs to be better with the guys that they had. Like, they should have been much better than this. So they really need to step it up in terms of offense. Like, they're just outside the top 10 except for an average, not a very good average team, but they really need to step it up. So that's the Padres. Oh, and as for their prediction, I almost forgot about the most important part. I'm predicting them to be it's kind of a spicy prediction. I'm expecting them to be in 4th place behind the Giants because they finished above the Giants. And I'm expecting them to go 83-79, which is one more win than last year because I think they lost a lot of offensive production with Soto, but they added a lot of good pitching and they added a lot of good pitching. So I feel like the pitching could carry them. And with Snell gone and perhaps not re-signed, maybe the less walks will help them on allowing less runs or something. So that's what I'm saying. On to the next team. The San Francisco Giants are the next team on my list. They went 79-83 last year, 21 games behind the Dodgers. So the Giants are a pretty interesting team. I don't think they're done in free agency quite yet, but we'll see. So this might age kind of poorly. But their lineup is looking pretty good in my opinion. They just signed Jorge Soler, which I love for them. They have Jung-Hoo Lee, Tyrell Estrada, Lamont Wade Jr., Jorge Soler, Michael Conforto, Wilmer Flores, Mike Yurzinski, Patrick Bailey, and Marco Luciano. So I do actually like their lineup a little better now. I thought it was kind of weak in the power department without Soler. I know Conforto can hit, and I know that Flores and Yurzinski and some of these other guys they can hit, but like they're mostly an on base team. And I love the signing of Jung Hoo Lee. Check out my video on the channel. Lee is gonna be an on base machine. I don't expect him to hit a lot of home runs, even though he can. But I'm expecting him to be a great leadoff hitter. He's always gonna be on base. He's always gonna be getting those triples, doubles, because San Francisco has a big field, and he could easily get like 5 or 6 triples in a season. He could be. I'm expecting him to hit pretty well. So with him being leadoff and then Soler cleaning up, I really like this lineup, and I like Conforto and Flores. Now, interestingly, I like their bench a lot too. I think their bench is pretty good. They have Austin Slater, who's a known quantity on the bench, and then they have JD Davis, who has power and he could DH. He could play third. Like his defense isn't great at third, but I really like JD Davis on the bench and Austin Slater. I think that's a great bench, and Tom Murphy to backup catch. Otto Lopez as a utility guy. So the guys I want to talk about here is Jung Hoo Lee, because Jung Hoo Lee is from the KBO and he's a really great hitter. Like every season he has, he hits really well. His he doesn't strike out too much. Like from his rookie seasons, his K percentage went from like up to 11, and now it's down to like 5.9. And his average 318, his on base 406, slugging 455. I mean, in his best season in the KBO, he had a on base as high as 438, which is very good, and he did 575 slug, 349 average. This is the season that he hit 23 homers, so you gotta take it with a grain of salt because it is the KBO. It's similar to like a minor league level of talent, so like a AAA level of talent, maybe like quadruple A, I guess you could say. And if this guy can be anywhere near his projections or anywhere near like 400 on base, that's gonna be great for the Giants. That's what they need in the leadoff position. So I really like that. And I already talked about JD Davis on the bench. So let's move on to pitching. In the pitching department, I like it. They have Logan Webb, Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks, Keaton Winn, Tristan Beck, and I really like their bullpen. Actually, their back end of their bullpen's is pretty decent. They have Duvall, Rogers, the Rogers brothers, I should say, because they're both twin brothers. Taylor and Tyler Rogers, Luke Jackson, Ryan Walker, Amir Garrett, who they just signed as a invitee to the roster, Ethan Small, and Sean Higil. So their bullpen, I think the back of it is going to be very strong. And then further starting pitching, I like the top of their lineup. The X factor will be Robbie Ray and Kyle Harrison. Now, Robbie Ray is on the injured list and Alex Cobb is on the injured list. So I think when those guys come back, or if they come back during the season, that's going to really push them over the edge more than like some of the guys that are currently on their starting rotation. But the guy I want to highlight is Jordan Hicks. Now, Jordan Hicks is a pitcher. He came over from the St. Louis Cardinals last season, I think at the trade deadline, at the trade deadline. And he's going to start. He used to be like a bullpen guy, but it's always been the dream from St. Louis to turn him into a starter. This guy throws heat. He throws 104, 105 miles per hour. And that can play if you have good like location and command, but you could also get rocks. So it's kind of like it's a slippery slope of like, okay, yeah, he could throw 100 miles over 100, but can he locate it? I don't know. But this guy strikes out a load of people. He has problems with control, as you can tell by his walks per 9. He gets a little out of hand. Home runs, not so bad with the home runs, but the walks are a little bit concerning, and he needs to keep it. If he could be around like a 3, like he was last season, or like 2019, but actually starting games instead of just being in the bullpen. It looks like they have him at like 122 innings or 137 innings, 9 Ks. Yeah. Yeah, I mean 365. Yeah, if he could be around that, that's like the ideal right there. Like if he gives you that, that's gonna be amazing. So they really need him to outperform whatever expectation that they have for him. They need him to really, really blow it out of the park. So, and then obviously I mentioned Robbie Ray now top comeback in the later in the season could give them a late season push. I like their lineup. Now the organizational details, they lost quite a few players, haven't brought them back. Jock Peterson, Sean Manaea, Brandon Crawford, they haven't re-signed. I don't know what's going on with him. AJ Pollock. So yeah, they lost a few players, and they have some guys that are ready to come up. Looks like, or will be ready. So that's great. And you can see last season they were kind of all over the place. Honestly, like their offense was the worst thing about them. Their pitching was pretty decent for the most part, and except for in some categories. But depending on how you slice it, they were pretty good overall. Like not a bad team. I think they just needed a few more players, and they'd be over the edge. And I think Soler puts them a little bit over the edge in terms of like if he can hit 30 homers, that will give them the offensive pop that they were kind of missing. 19th in homers, and that's going to lead to more runs, more on base, and Lee's going to give them the on base percentage and average and possibly stolen bases. And hopefully Hicks will give them the strikeouts and all that. So as for my prediction for the Giants, I'm predicting them to be in third place, just above the Padres. I think it'd be very tight. Like I don't expect this to be a very far. No one's going to be far and away blown away the division except for the Dodgers maybe. But Giants, I'm expecting 84 and 78. I'm predicting them one game above the Padres because I know that last year they finished Giants fourth, Padres third. But I think it could flip. And it could be Giants, Padres, Rockies. So we'll see what happens. I'm thinking that's how it's going to go. On to the next team. The Arizona Diamondbacks made it to the World Series this past season. So, they only went 84 and 78. They were 16 games beyond the Dodgers. I'm kind of expecting a similar outcome. Similar, maybe not. Maybe probably a little bit closer. I think they actually got better despite being, in the World Series and all that. So it's pretty surprising they got there, but I'm not that surprised. When you look at their team and their lineup, it's just all the way down is just like, where do I get a break? So we have Corbin Carroll, Cal Marte, Christian Walker, Jock Peterson, Gabriel Moreno, Eugenio Suarez, Alek Thomas, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., and Geraldo Perdomo. And this is a lineup where it's like, where do you get a break? Like, is there any breaks in this lineup? Honestly, because in the playoffs, Moreno banged. Like, he was on fire. And then they added Suarez, they added Peterson, who are pretty good home run guys in the past. I mean, I think Peterson didn't have as good of a year as he usually has, but Suarez is good for 25 home runs almost every season. So, like, you can't go wrong with that. It's crazy. Like they really, their lineup is very strong 1 through 9. I don't hate anybody. I mean, Perdomo might be the weakest guy, like maybe the weakest if you really want to like slice it in some way. He might be the weakest, but like the only thing is Suarez kind of a strikeout guy because he swings for the fences a lot, and that tends to lead to more strikeouts. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. Now the player that I want to go over with this team is Corbin Carroll. He's going to be their X factor. He's going to be the guy that they're going to look to and be like, all right, if he's not doing good, we're not doing good at all. So, and Carroll, obviously, he was second in the league in stolen bases behind Ronald Acuna Jr., 54. And he carried the team. Like, he was a spark plug, 25 home runs. He did everything. He gets walks, 8%, doesn't strike out too much. He had a 285 average, 262 on base, 506 slugging, 370 WOBA, 133 rated runs created plus. So this guy, he's an X factor, and he needs to put up the same kind of numbers. You can see the projections. It's kind of like, 281, 357, 505, 368. It's kind of, if he puts up that's going to be a decent season, but he needs to perform very well for these guys to like get back to the World Series, because that's hard to do. So that'll be the trick for them. And moving on to their bench, they have Tucker Barnhart, who I like as a catcher. I think he's probably gonna make the roster. He seems like an easy make. He's a pretty decent catcher actually. Emmanuel Rivera, Jace Peterson, Jake McCarthy. These guys pretty proven. I think they all did pretty well in the playoffs too. So I like their bench overall. Moving on to the pitching, we have Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Brandon Pfaadt, Ryan Nelson. So overall, I like their pitching lineup. I like their rotation. Gallen's obviously an ace. Kelly was lights out last year. My big plus is going to be Rodriguez. We'll see what he does. Erod, I mean, if he's lights out, there's no telling what this team could do again. So, and then in their bullpen, which was low-key one of the best parts of their team, Paul Sewald, when I traded with Seattle last year, I like him. He was lights out. Even with the Mariners, he was lights out. He just stayed lights out. Kevin Ginkel, Miguel Castro, much love. Former Met. I love him. He's going to be great. Andrew Saalfrank, Scott McGough, Ryan Thompson, Joe Manaply, and Luis Freeze. I thought about Joe Manaply, but I'm going to stick with Erod. I think Erod is like an X factor. He's one of those guys that can, if he gives you a good season, it's, you know, he's going to pitch you a lot of innings. He's had over 100 innings, closer to 200 in a lot of seasons when he's not hurt. And you know, he's pretty decent. If he's on, he could be like 2021 with Boston. He had 157 innings, 10 strikeouts per 9, 2 walks per 9, 1 home run per 9, and you know he's gonna get the job done. Like maybe his ERA won't be fantastic, but he's gonna get the job done overall because you can't really look at ERA, but his xERA 347. That's still pretty decent. He's a pretty decent number 2, number 3 starter. And that's exactly where they have him. So if he could meet projections or you know do better than that, that'd be ideal for him, I think. And if he could be under 4 ERA, you know, with a similar to like 10 strikeouts per 9, less than a homer, like a homer per 9, that'd be perfect for them. I think that's what they want out of him, and that will give them, you know, some championship caliber pitching. And then they're injured. They have one guy, Tommy John, not a big deal. Organizational details, they haven't really re-signed anybody. They just re-signed Gurriel, but Tommy Pham, Longoria, Nick Ahmed, Bumgarner, I think he's done. Kyle Lewis, Mark Melcon. And then they have a lot of good prospects coming. I mean, that's obvious. And overall, I like their team. Like, they're pretty mid, really, if you look at it. Like, their stolen bases was high because of Carroll, but everything else was pretty mid. So they're going to want to be better than that. Like, they want to get a better position for the playoffs. They don't want to be 84 wins. They want to be higher. And I think they will because Carroll has more experience. They added guys that can hit Suarez. And so I think they're going to be pretty decent. And because of that, I put them in second place, 91 and 71. So yeah, that's only 9 games behind the Dodgers, but I mean, I think that's realistic given what the Dodgers are going to do. So I like their chances to make the playoffs again, possibly get back to the World Series, maybe win it. We'll see what happens. So stay tuned for the Dodgers, the Empire. The Los Angeles Dodgers went 162, which is a very satisfying record to have. They were in first place. I mean, what can you say? And the Dodgers have had a hell of an offseason. They've added a bunch of players, a bunch. They basically spent 2 years not adding anybody, and now they're adding everybody. And everyone's sick of hearing about them, but hence we have to talk about them. So their lineup, you know it already. You know it. I know it. Your mom knows it. Everyone knows it. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith, Max Muncy, James Outman, Teoscar Hernandez, Jason Hayward, Gavin Lux. I don't know what to say. I mean, they have the best lineup in the league. Like, there's no holes. Again, it's very little space to breathe in this lineup. Shohei, he's obviously going to add, you know, tons of power. And when he pitches, he's going to add more on that end too. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, these guys are all-time players. But who I really want to talk about, though, is obviously Teoscar Hernandez, because he was an addition, and I always liked him. I think he was great with the He was with the Mariners last year. He did pretty well. 258, 305, 435, 317 WOBA. So yeah, not bad. And I think he just brings, some power, some hits, some steals, maybe even 7 steals. He's pretty good. So if he could do somewhere close to what his projections are, or somewhere similar to what he did last year with Seattle, he's gonna be fine. Like he's a 7-hole guy that can easily hit probably 5th or 4th in some lineups. So like you gotta hand it to the Dodgers. They can make Teoscar Hernandez a 7-hole guy. Like that's how good they are. Like it's crazy. And they have the best bench in the league. I'm not even gonna argue it because they have Austin Barnes, Miguel Rojas, Chris Taylor, and Manuel Margot. That's the best bench in the league. There's no these guys could all be starters on other teams. I'm not even kidding. Like Austin Barnes used to be a starter for Miami. Miguel Rojas used to be a starter. Chris Taylor have started in the past for the Dodgers. Manuel Margot started for the Rays. So it's like they have a starting lineup on their bench, bro. Like this is it. This team isn't serious. It's nuts. And then of course their pitching is ridiculous too. And their injury list is, oh my god. Well, let's start with their starting pitching. Yoshimo Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, Bobby Miller, James Paxton, Emmett Sheehan. And then the bullpen, they have Evan Phillips, Brusdar Graterol, Joe Kelly, Ryan Brazier, Alex Vesa, Blake Treinen, JP Frazier, Ryan Yarbrough. Like that's a great pitching staff. Every single one. They're all gonna be probably lights out because they just figure out pitchers really well. But what I want to talk about really is Tyler Glasnow, because Glasnow, if he could stay healthy, this guy is scary. Like he's one of the best pitchers in the league when he's healthy and when he's on. It's crazy. Like when you look at his numbers from his healthy seasons when he pitched, 100 games or whatever. Well, not that one, but when he pitches like a decent amount, he's actually very good. Like 2021, he figured it out. 88 games, 12 Ks, almost 13, 2 walks, 1 home run. He had a 2.66 ERA, 2.74 ERA, xERA, 2.77 FIP, and 2.6 WAR. Like, if he could just figure it out for one season and be healthy, he'd be great. And then last year he did very well too until he got hurt. But if he could do the same thing for the Dodgers, and he probably will, and he stays healthy, this starting pitching rotation is going to be great, especially because when you look at they're injured, all these guys are injured. Walker Buehler, Nick Frasso, Tony Gonsolin, Clayton Kershaw, Dustin May. These are all great starting pitchers. So when they all come back, they're going to have the deepest rotation in baseball. Not even kidding. Like, deepest. Just, it's insane. They have 8 starting pitchers. Like, they don't even need to worry about injuries. They have a whole rotation on their injured list. Like, and then they obviously haven't brought back everybody. I don't know if Urias will be coming back. He has some stuff going on. Martinez is still a free agent. Wonder who's gonna sign him. Ahmed Rosario, David Peralta, Colton Wong, Enrique Hernandez, Alex Reyes. Yeah. And they have a bunch of prospects as usual, and a lot of them are ready to go. And as you can see from the rankings in 2023, they were a good team before. I don't think that's going to change. It's probably going to be better. As you can imagine, you can see their stats are pretty decent. It's going to be better. Like, it's going to get better. It's going to just be better. Now, obviously, getting all the best players and all that doesn't mean you're guaranteed results. Just look at the 2023 Mets. We were expected to be first, win the World Series, easy money. Everyone got hurt. The team sucked. They traded everyone away. Yeah. So it doesn't always work like you think it does, but you can dream, right? Like, you can dream. So obviously I put the Dodgers first, 162, same record as last year. Probably going to be more than that. I'm probably going under on this one, but I learned my lesson last year. I put teams way too high, and I was like, oh, wow, I was wrong. So yeah, that's the NL West. Thanks for watching. Tune in for the AL West next. See you later.